The first question that I'm going to ask you, I would like the four of you within your situation in your different countries, you in Spain, you in Sweden, you in Uganda, and you, a colleague in all of Europe, I would like you to tell us how you see the situation of current environmental activists in the world. In Spain at the moment, environmental activists are getting a lot of voice. This is very important. Although we've been silenced for so long, just like scientists, we finally have the possibility of being heard.
In Sweden, already earlier today we had a climate strike in Stockholm, and we are really gaining momentum in Sweden. We are getting bigger and bigger, and our voices are being heard more and more. But of course, that does not translate into political action, as I can imagine most other places. But we continue. In Stockholm, in Sweden, they are striking every Friday from school. Yeah. And they have been doing that for 1.5 years now. And they are very patient and...
Okay, thank you. Vanessa?
The climate movement started in January in Uganda, and so far now we have a number of activists. The issue with Uganda is that it is hard to hold a massive strike because of police brutality and arrests, so many people fear to join the strikes as a result of fear of the police and ignorance of the people about the climate crisis. Many people do not know much about climate change in Uganda, as it is not really taught in schools. So many don't know that we are in a crisis, and it is quite hard to convince them to join the climate strikes. So it has not been so easy, but it is building momentum because we have a number of individual activists in Uganda, and I believe that by the end of the year we'll have more activists, because we have Fridays for Future Uganda, we have Youth for Future Africa, and they're all activists from Uganda.
I think from an international perspective, the movement Fridays for Future has completely shifted the landscape, because it's a whole generation taking to the streets all over the world, demanding the same thing, measures given the climate emergency and climate justice. This is something that all young people are going to see our lives impacted unless these actions are fulfilled, if we don't take measures against climate change. And so the most important thing of this movement is that it's a movement. Fridays for Future means thousands of millions of youths every Friday working, going out in the street and representing all the countries in the world, from Africa, Europe, Latin America as well, and Asia, Oceania. And this, I think, is the most important thing about this struggle. It's a struggle of all the world. Okay, we'll ask a brief round of questions. We've explained this at the beginning, Angela, and the COP had to be held in Chile, so they're maintaining the presidency of the COP, but it is being held in Madrid, as you all know. So we're going to start a round of questions. Before that, I would like the first two questions given to Greta. Question for Greta. Good afternoon. How did you react when COP25 was suspended in Chile? How did you feel about that?
First of all, I had, of course, followed the recent developments in Chile, and it was, of course, very upsetting to see. And so, first, my thoughts was with the people of Chile, and still are. And I just hope that the situation gets better. And so yeah, that was my. And also yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have two very quick questions. Greta, I don't know if you think we need more figures like yourself in the world, and if you believe the time has come for all politicians to pay attention to young people like yourself or people who are going out in the streets before listening to the many people who are at the COP, right? So they should listen to you rather than them first.
Of course, they should not listen to me before anyone else. A figure like me, I'm just an activist, a climate activist, a small part of a very big movement. And yes, we need more climate activists. And as I said, we don't need to listen to me before anyone else. And having said that, I think it is also very important that, because I know people really want to hear from the others as well. So please ask questions, not only to me.
Fridays for Future in Chile. And indeed, in Chile, we're seeing a very significant social crisis, and they want to come up with a new constitution. The people have gone out to the streets every day. They're marching and also demanding that the environmental rights are included in this new constitution. We'd like to know your opinion about that demand in Chile to include climate rights in the constitution.
Who wants to answer that question?
It was for you.
No, he didn't say my name. Okay, for me, I think, yes, it is very important that we include environmental justice when we speak of social justice. That is a very key thing, because that is the base of other justices as well, climate justice and environmental justice. So it definitely needs to be included.
Hello. I want to continue asking Greta. I do have a question for you. Do you think that there are going to be real results? Are there going to be real results from this conference? Do you trust global leaders? And what do you think about all this attention that your figure is receiving since you've arrived?
I sincerely hope that the COP25 will lead to something concrete, and that will lead to also an increase in awareness among people in general, and that the world leaders, the people in power, grasp the urgency of the climate crisis, because right now it doesn't seem like they are. So I really hope that, and I know we will do everything we can to make sure that this is something that cannot be ignored anymore, that they cannot just hide away anymore. And what do you others think about that?
So,
This is the first COP that comes at a time when Fridays for Future has spread all over the world, after they've been going out to the streets every week to demand actions from the governments. And many countries have already declared the state of climate emergency. It's the first time that we're demanding that they don't wait any longer. If we don't act now, we were all going to be suffering the consequences. And since it's the last COP before the Paris Agreement comes into force, countries need to be far more ambitious than they have been until now. And that's what we're expecting from political leaders. They need to be on the right side of history. Belén? Have you, Greta, you've received some criticism from certain politicians, not just Donald Trump, but in Spain here too, they've also criticized that climate change is not being fought with trips on a catamaran. What is your opinion? Why does it bother them that the young people are leading this movement? Or does it bother them for some other reason? Why do you think that is?
Some people, it feels like, want to maintain. They want everything to continue like now, and they are afraid of change. And change is what we young people are bringing, and that's why they are trying to silence us. And but that is just a proof that we are having an impact, that our voices are being heard, since they try so desperately to silence us. And Vanessa?
I think they try to silence us because they do not want up on their greed for money over our lives. It is important for them to understand that lives come before money, but if they keep going after their greed, if they keep going after their money and development, which they think benefits us, for example, in Africa, we keep getting all these large emitters coming to our continent and thinking that they are bringing development to us, and yet it is destruction in the end. So if they don't give up on their greed, they'll keep on silencing us, but we are just going to keep moving forward.
Hello. I wanted to ask all of you, especially Greta, but I would like all of you to answer two very simple questions. How do you see the world if we do nothing 10 years from now? And since you're here, what would you say to the leaders, the Trumps and the Bolsonaro, who haven't even come to the conference? And even though Trump was in Europe, he was in London. What would you say to them right now? I would like to focus above all on the question of, I would say, to political leaders. I think we've been discussing this far too long, of the many reasons for climate change, and we're not aware that all those reasons are a consequence of the main reason, and that big main reason is colonialism, which has made us believe that we could put a price on life. And I would like to ask political leaders to not put a price on life. Stop this immediately and listen to us young people who are demanding this day after day in the streets of our cities. Please listen to us.
It is impossible for anyone to know how the world will look in 10 years. And that, I think, is also the challenge we face, that we don't know what is going to happen. Of course, we can predict approximately this and that, how it will be, but we cannot know for sure. So we have to adapt, and we have to solve the problem when the problem comes, and of course try to do everything we can to prevent worse consequences. And to those who are not here, COP25 is seen as some kind of middle year, that the big event is COP26 next year. But we cannot afford middle years. We cannot afford any more days going by without real action being taken. So the COP25 is not something we should just look past and ignore, because every chance we get to improve the situation, we must take.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Okay,
I think that we shouldn't look at what's going to happen in the future if we don't take action. Let us try to look at the countries that are already facing the impact of the climate crisis. For example, I'll keep speaking for Africa because that's where I come from. There are countries like Uganda, Kenya, like for 2 months they have been having crazy floods and people have been dying, people have been left homeless, and children have been left as orphans. So if you keep saying that we have years to try and save ourselves, remember that there are people who are already dying as a result of this crisis. So it's not a matter of the future, it's a matter of now. If you want to survive, we have to act now. And to those who are not here for COP, I find them being so selfish and not being considerate. At least if they can't do it for us, they should do it for their own children and grandchildren.
I would like to also answer this question of how we see the future in 10 years. I don't think it's, even in the best case scenario, none of us four, we're not experts, we're not scientists, and all the scientific predictions there have been so far have been proving that they're not, that it could even be much, much worse. That's why we have to act now, and we have to listen to the experts, because who are the ones who really have to come up with the solutions and force politicians to follow the proposals of these scientific experts. Alex? Hello. The question is for Greta and for everyone else. I would like to know your opinion on the emergence of sponsors at COP25, companies that are very polluting, such as Endesa, the electricity company in Spain. And I would like to know your opinion about this, and if you think that the change should be carried out outside capitalist frameworks.
I think that they're being hypocrites and they're pretending, they're trying to clean up their mess by making us think that they're helping us. So I don't really trust in their sponsorship in the COP25. They're just trying to cover up their mess, and they're trying to brainwash us and blind us, because if we see that they are sponsoring, some of the people may actually think that what they have been doing is right. Okay, they're now trying to clean up what they have done, but they shouldn't just sponsor, they should try to reverse the crisis that they created. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Madrid from AP, and my question is for the four of you, and I would like the four of you to respond according to your experience in the different countries. This is, I would say, the second COP since the Fridays for Future movement was born. And I would like to know, how do you see the movement evolving in coming years? And especially if there's no progress in the framework of UN summits, how else are you planning to make your message heard?
It's clear that the movement right now is getting a lot of media attention. It's incredible. A lot of young people are going out in the streets to protest, to fight for climate justice. The problem is that we've been marching for a year, and the only thing that they've done is declare a climate emergency. We need to stop just writing it down on paper. We need to start making direct, clear measures already. We need to take specific measures already. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, we have been striking now for over a year, and still basically nothing has happened. The climate crisis is still being ignored by those in power, and we cannot go on like this. It is not a sustainable solution that children skip school. We cannot go on like that. So we don't want to continue. So we would love some action from the people in power. I mean, because people are suffering and dying from the climate and ecological emergency today, and we cannot wait any longer.
And it's really difficult to think about how we are going to continue striking, because at the end, Fridays for Future is all over the world, and each one can decide by themselves how they want to continue. But I think we are up to keep fighting for it, because all our future depend on it, and we cannot stop now without anyone doing nothing else. So we really need for the whole society to strike with us as to push the government to take action in this crisis.
Yeah, I can say that we'll keep striking, and we've been doing this for a long time. But it's not about the strikes; it's about the action. It's about the impact that these strikes bring about. We are tired of the praises that you keep giving activists, because we don't want the praises. We want your action towards the climate crisis, because the praises are not going to save us. It is your action that is going to save us. It is your action that is going to secure a better future for all of us. And we don't want the promises. We've had a lot of promises since forever, and I know we are going to hear more promises at this COP25. We had promises at the UN Youth Climate Summit and the General Summit, but we don't want just your promises. We don't want you to just declare climate emergency in the different countries. We want you to act, because most of you are being pushed to declare climate emergency just to try and please us, but we want you to act, not just declare. Thank you.
Okay, la última, perdón, para el compañero de CNN.
For the four of you, Gavin Lee at the BBC, Greta, a quick question specifically for you. If you look back, I know you've spoken in the past 2 months of your frustration, of your anger, but in the space of the year, from being solo outside Swedish Parliament to having this movement of millions of people, what achievements do you think there have been?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear half of the question.
Tell me about, in the space of the past year, what do you think, despite your frustration and anger, that you've achieved with this movement?
I think we have achieved a lot. We have raised public awareness, and we have created opinion, and that is a big step in the right direction. But of course, it's nowhere near enough. So frankly, the CO2 emissions are not reducing; they are in fact increasing. 2019, they will increase 0.6%. So of course there is no victory, because the only thing we want to see is real action, and real action has not been happening. So of course we have achieved a lot, but if you look at it from a certain point of view, we have achieved nothing.
Bueno, vamos a cerrar ya porque
We're
nos estamos
closing
pasando un
now
poco de tiempo.
because we're running out of time.
Perdón.
We can't hear him very well, but I think he's talking about the situation in
Perdona,
Chile and
el
people
turno de
being
preguntas-
tortured
perdón,
there.
el turno de preguntas terminó.
And he's saying that the time for questions is finished. There are children out in the street, I think he's saying. I'm sorry, he's not using a microphone.
Si queréis contestar a la pregunta.
If you want to say anything about this, I would definitely like to say something. I would like to send all my support for everything that's happening, because climate justice will never be possible without social justice.